I always think it's somewhat comical when people refer to a conference as the first annual Policy Research Conference, but this is PACE's first annual Policy Research Conference, and that's a declaration that this is something that we intend to continue, that when we leave the building today, we'll begin planning for another event at the beginning of next year. So this is something that we have put on our annual agenda and look forward to continuing. I think it's also, of course, comical to call it the first annual conference, and also somewhat comical to call it a conference on the future of education in California. That sounds a little bit portentous, but I think we find ourselves at a moment when that turns out to be a very apt title, that there is both a lot going on in California and a lot going on elsewhere that is going to have powerful implications for California, and thinking hard about what the current changes mean will have a lot to do with how education progresses in our state. I want to say just a couple of words about the agenda today. Like all of you, PACE's mission and our activities have been reshaped by the local control funding formula and by the need to adapt to an education system in which power and responsibility have been dramatically decentralized. And as those of you who know PACE know, we have focused for decades on Sacramento, on state policy. But in a decentralized system, we, like the State Board of Education, like the California Department of Education, like all of you, are obliged to think about how to foster and support a process of continuous improvement in local school districts. This is new for us. This is not the kind of work that we've done in the past. We've really thought of ourselves as a policy organization. So today's program reflects that new reality and that change for us, in that the morning sessions will focus mainly on policy issues, and the afternoon sessions will focus on surfacing promising practices from California school districts and institutions of post-secondary education that might provide lessons for others about how to improve both organizational performance, but student performance as well. And so I very much hope, and we're very much looking forward to those sessions, because this is something new for us. We're learning a lot as we engage in this work, and I trust that you will learn a lot as well. I'm not going to go through the agenda in detail, but I do want to highlight today's keynote speakers. And the first is Mike Kirst, and I'll introduce Mike in a moment. At lunchtime, we'll hear from Chris Edley. Chris is the former dean of the law school at UC Berkeley and the president of the Opportunity Institute. And particularly in this moment in California's educational history, equity issues have always been near the top of the agenda. At this moment, they are of a really compelling urgency. That we're going to face great challenges on the equity front in the next few years. And we've asked Chris to come and talk about what he foresees for the least advantaged students in California, both under LCFF but also under the new regime in Washington. And we'll close the day with a session on what is coming out of Washington. We've invited Mike Petrilli from the Fordham Institute, who is in Washington and has some insight into what the new administration is thinking. We asked Mike Smith to come, and Mike agreed, and happily agreed, but then sadly had some medical issues a couple of days ago, and his doctors won't let him leave the Bay Area, so he sent some notes, and I will distribute the notes before the session, but we're sad that he can't be here. But as he said, Mike Petrilli, we're overloaded with mics. I don't know if you noticed that, but we have lots of mics among our keynote speakers. Mike Smith said that Mike Petrilli was probably a better mic than he to talk about what's going on in Washington. So right now, I want to thank you for coming. I'm going to, not to take too much time now, I want to thank PACE's funders, many of whom are here, PACE's advisory board, what we call our PRP, many of our academic colleagues are here today. I'll thank people more directly at the end of the day, but I want to acknowledge that many of our best friends are here in the room. I should say, many of our best friends are here in the room. A lot of academics here, a lot of policymakers, a lot of practitioners from local school districts, and we trust that there will be interaction among you over the course of the day. One of the things that I think PACE can do is to bring those often disparate groups together to talk about the challenges that California faces, and we hope that those conversations will unfold as the day proceeds. So with that, I want to point out that bios of all of today's speakers and panelists are in your packets. So neither I nor the moderators of the other sessions will introduce people in detail, but we trust that you will look up their bios and with us admire their accomplishments.